Do you know that there are Indigenous Igbos in northern Nigeria? This is not a situation whereby maybe you can say they went for business or something. So they've been there for 50 years, 80 years, or 100 years. No. A people that has been there for over 400 years in northern Nigeria. Are you surprised? Yes. They are older. They are over 200 years older than the Fulanis of Nigeria. Now, these Igbo people in northern Nigeria can be found in Guzo in Zamfara state.
Do you also know that if the people of Ebonyi state were the ones living here in River State, do you know that they wouldn't have been calling themselves Igbo?
All right, these days people come across so many things on the internet, and sometimes when we come across these things, we digest them without asking questions. Well, this video I'm going to show you, I want you to listen attentively. The guy is saying that there are Igbo indigenous in Gusau, Zamfara state. That doesn't sound, correct to me, but I said anyway, it's very easy to find out whether it is true or not. But there are Igbo peoples in Zamfara, probably 100 years or more. Probably people that came to settle maybe for one business or the other. I am not talking about that one. I am talking about the indigenous people of the land. People that have been there centuries upon centuries ago when it comes to what we are talking about. So people in Zamfara, Gusau, I know there are Igbo people there. That one, I'm not doubting it. I know. Please, if you get across this video or you share it to people around that area, let them comment. That is the only raw research I can do now to find out the truth about this. So, but before we go ahead, let's hear what our brother, you know him, sometimes I bring his video here, what he has to say about the Igbo indigenous. He claimed in Zamfara State, Gusau.
Do you know that there are Indigenous Igbos in northern Nigeria? Do you know that there are Indigenous Igbos residing in northern Nigeria? This is not a situation whereby maybe you can say they went for business or something. So they've been there for 50 years, 80 years, or 100 years. No. A people that has been there for over 400 years in northern Nigeria. Are you surprised? Yes. They are older. They are over 200 years older than the Fulanis of Nigeria. Yes, you heard me. The Fulani caliphate or dynasty or whatever caliphate began in the early 19th century. Danfodio arrived in northern Nigeria in 1804. So these people are over 200 years older than them. Danfodio arrived and began his conquest, conquered the northern territories, changed their names and identities. That is why you find out that the states you have in northern Nigeria are not the aboriginal state or the original state or the ancient northern state. They are not. The only state that is still standing is Boronu. That is one of the ancient northern states, Boronu. And that is why you find out that that is the headquarters of insurgency. Because that is the only state that refused to let go their standard, that didn't fall by the conquest of Danfodio. Do you understand that? That is the only state that didn't fall. They still maintain their traditional, their stew and everything that has to do with them. So because of that, that has been the center, that has been the focus of the Fulanis conquest. That has been the focus of terror and whatever. Just to make sure that that community, that state falls. Because it still retained its ancient name. All these other states were renamed by the Fulanis. Now you've learned that one today. Now, these Igbo people in northern Nigeria can be found in Guzo in Zamfara state. They are almost 300 years older than Yoruba. Yes, Yoruba, the word Yoruba is not up to 150 years. Are you surprised? Yes, I said so. The word Yoruba is not up to 150 years. So Yoruba is the newest ethnic nationality in Nigeria. They are the newest ethnic nationality in Nigeria. Even the Fulanis are older than them. Yes, the Fulanis are older than them. So the Igbos in northern Nigeria are not, it's not like maybe the ones you see in Ghana, Yorubas in Ghana saying they've stayed in Ghana for 100 years, so they need the right to vote and be voted for. That is not what we are talking about. We are talking about a people who has been there for the past 400 years. You get it? So that is how it is. That is just how it is. So for those of you who are believing, because they're in Ghana, there are so many tribes that traces their root to Ile-Ife. Okay, and as such, they say the Yorubas are their brothers. They can hate the Igbos and accept the Yorubas to be their brothers, unknowingly to them that they are actually fighting against their ancestors. Because one is, check your grandfather. How old is your grandfather? How old is your great-grandfather? You will find out that they are older than the name Yoruba that I told you is less than 150 years. Do you now understand that? I have to make these expositions because we are on our way heading to Ile-Ife, so that you can understand these things before we get to Ile-Ife. Do you understand it? So that is just all I have for today. Okay, that is just all I have for today. The reason why I'm making this exposition, because there is a people, a tribe that is bent on presenting the Igbos as a new race, as a new tribe, as a new people, a people that existed in the 20th century or 21st century or 19th century or 18th century or something like that. So I just established an account of a people who are settled in northern Nigeria, who left Igbo land to settle in northern Nigeria for over 400 years. I will also bring some other account of Igbos in other African countries, like Sierra Leone, Liberia, Equatorial Guinea, and so many others. If they also want me to talk about Ghana, I will do that. So that is just how it is. Thank you. See you in my next episode. I hope you enjoyed this.
All right, you have seen that video, and I bet you that if you don't have answer to that video, please share it. Let others predominantly in that area respond, or a group or one-on-one discussion with somebody that can give us information. In the other one of my videos, then I saw somebody saying something similar. He said there are indigenous people, Igbo people in Niger State. That one, somebody dropped it here, but all these things, I still want to verify it in this particular video, so that everybody will be carried along. Let's know the truth about the matter. So, but having said that, the person that created Nigeria, talking about majorly Lugard himself, he made mention of the tribes that he met in Nigeria, majorly these three tribes: Igbo, Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, Hausa, Fulani, and Yoruba. Yes. Like, you don't come be like, say, the Fulani is not overrun Yoruba. People not going to say that mistake I do. That's why I had to go back and add Yoruba there. So this life, something that would have ended since when Ojukwu started this thing. Well, let's see what happens. I know that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. So Lugard described the tribes he met in Nigeria, and I want you to listen to what Lugard said according to him, according to the guy. I brought this video earlier. Well, I said that this video is more of a research. The claims are quite weighty, that we need to tread with caution. So the ones that are correct, let's solidify it and give it thumbs up. The ones that are, verifiable, let's see. He even said that in that previous video that the Igbos in that Guzo, that Zamfara state, are indigenous before the Fulanis came. That one, I believe it could be true. Well, still verifiable. That the Fulanis even came before the Yorubas. Well, let's watch him. Let's watch what he said.
Quick one. Today I am bringing you the description by Frederick Lugard of the tribes he merged together. How Frederick Lugard, the man who created Nigeria, the person who created Nigeria is called Frederick Lugard. Okay, he's the one who created Nigeria in 1914, and this is what he has to say about the tribes he merged together in Nigeria. Okay, now I want to read directly from his words so I don't make mistake. Okay, now the first one, he says, the handover notes Lord Lugard wrote to his colleague, Walter H. Lang. His colleague, his successor was Walter H. Lang, on the 25th of September, 1918. Okay, Nigeria was created in, he created Nigeria in 1914. Then in 1918, he handed over to Walter H. Lang. Okay, although he's been ruling as governor before the creation of Nigeria. Okay, and this is how it went. The quote reads inter alia. He started with the Hausas, then the Yorubas, then the Igbos. But first, let me start with the Igbos first. Now he says, these people of this is Igbo. These people of predominantly eastern Nigeria are fiercely rebellious. Now the Igbos, Frederick Lugard, the man who created Nigeria, said you are a rebel. He said you are a rebel. Okay, and you know what is a rebel? Okay, somebody who does not bow to suppression, who does not bow to opposition, somebody who does not bow to compare. Okay, every great man in history was once tagged a rebel. Okay, so long as you can't submit, so long as you can't be subdued, okay, you're a rebel. Okay, so he described you as a rebel. That is what Frederick Lugard had to say about you as an Igbo. Now, he went ahead to say, fiercely rebellious with no regard for authority. He says you don't have any regard for authority. Okay, this one I will blame your traditional system, because the Igbos has a different traditional system from what the Westerners introduced. Okay, Igbos don't believe in one person who is a king or a ruler, or one person who is magnified over others and all that, and he should be worshipped and a lot of things. Igbos don't believe that. It is not part of their system from old. Okay, Igbos believe in a system whereby the elders, they have their council of elders. Okay, they adjudicate on their issues and settle their matters and all that. The people, Igbo Beze, okay, everybody in Igbo land is a king. So the system that was brought to Nigeria or brought to Igbo land contradicts what the Igbos were initially having, what they had in the past. So I think this was the greatest problem that these people had. So he said they are rebellious and had no regard for authority. I think this was actually what affected it. Okay, now though industrious, he acknowledged that the Igbos were industrious. Okay, they had the spirit to produce, to invent, to innovate, the brain to think out something and go for it and achieve it. Okay, so he said that though industrious and religious, he said you are Igbos are religious. Okay, well, this one I would say it's spirituality. Okay, because they themselves, they call it religion because it's not associated to them. Okay, as Africans we are spiritual people. Okay, but they themselves, they know what they know is religion. Okay, so that means Igbos were deeply rooted in spirituality. Okay, that is what he's saying. Indifferent to the objective of Her Majesty. That is to say, you oppose the objective of Her Majesty. That is the plans, the things Your Majesty's, the Queen of England has brought out. You oppose it. Okay, you don't always agree to the plans of the Queen of England and the crown. Okay, the throne of England. Okay, he said you're indifferent to the Queen of England and the crown. And he went ahead to say that they are highly dangerous to be trusted with. That the Igbos are highly dangerous to be trusted with. This is where the problem of the Igbos started in Nigeria. Frederick Lugard made it open to Nigerians that you should not trust an Igbo man with power. This is where the problem of the Igbos started from. This is the point. That is why they made sure they push power to the north and the west. Okay, and they told them not to make sure that power doesn't get into the hands of an Igbo man because they cannot be trusted with power. What does he mean by this statement? This is the reason why Nnamdi Azikiwe was not able to rule Nigeria. This is the reason why they made sure he doesn't rule Nigeria. This is the reason why the Igbos has been sidelined from leadership in Nigeria. Even when they have what it takes, they are the most credible. Even when they are the most competent when it comes to everything. And from their record, they have always been at the forefront of everything. They have always been the best. If you check the record of Nigeria before the Civil War, they have always been at the top. Call it judiciary, call it whatever. The Igbos has always been at the top. Education and otherwise. So because of this single fact, because they cannot be controlled, because they cannot be oppressed, because they cannot be subdued, they cannot allow themselves to be puppets. They cannot act as stooges to the West. This is the reason why they have refused to give an Igbo man power. Because giving an Igbo man power means that there will be breakthrough, there will be development, there will be light. So this is the reason Nnamdi Azikiwe was the biggest threat the West had. A man who commanded civil servants. Civil servants have to sit in their houses while the West, the white people, have to work. He caused a lot of strikes. Not until the white people have to negotiate before civil servant could start work. Nnamdi Azikiwe was very powerful. He was the person at the forefront of Nigeria's independence. But due to the fact that the West feared him, the West saw him as a threat. The West saw him that he is a man that they cannot control. He's a rebel. He's a threat. He cannot be oppressed. He cannot be subdued. He cannot be suppressed. He cannot be a stooge. He cannot do our bid. So because of that, make sure the Igbos don't have access to power. And that is why Nigeria is suffering today. And that is why Igbo has never produced any president in Nigeria. So this is all what they said about the Igbos. I'm done with this topic. Stay tuned for another interesting topic. Thank you.
All right, my people, you have heard it. And much claims there, I know they are correct. Well, having watched that, there are these people trying to trace how tribalism started in Nigeria. I know tribalism is one of the core issues that we're having in this country, and that's what made us not to be a country. That's what makes us to be a mere geographical expression, because of that tribalism. A nation is built on tribes. That's how you build nation. You don't put people with different tribes, major tribes, key major tribes together without arranging the system in a way that it will not affect each other, because that conflict naturally will be there. So the person that brought out this conflict, tribalism in Nigeria, he said it's Awolowo. Because of what happened then, Zik wanted to become the premier of Southwest in Lagos, but Awolowo introduced tribalism and Zik had to left or have to leave Oyibo down to the east to do his own bidding. So that is it. Let's watch. This is not the first time I'm hearing it, or this is not the first time, and I think I've brought that before in this channel. So but let's watch from this other angle what he has to say. Let's go.
Okay, quick one. I received a video about somebody, a woman. She's a Yoruba woman. Today I want to lecture her. I want to educate her. I've been seeing your comments on Facebook and WhatsApp. Keep insulting me. I will keep giving you the hard truth, okay? Keep bringing those your insults. I love it. Now, the woman said a couple of things. She talked about Awolowo. We saying that Awolowo introduced tribalism in Nigeria's politics. She mentioned that. She also mentioned nepotism. She also mentioned Lagos as a no man's land, and traditional stews. These were the things she mentioned. Now, I want to school you. I can't tag her in this video because I don't think she lacks the critical analysis when it comes to history. She claims she knows history, but unfortunately, she's not sound. So I can't tag her. So if you know her, send this video to her, because somebody sent me her video. So I watched it, and I was seeing the things she was saying. Now, without mixing words, Awolowo introduced tribalism in Nigeria's politics. Yes, that is the truth. So whether you like to accept it or not, but that is the truth. Now listen, you cannot explain the fact that in Igbo land, an Hausa person, or should I say a Fulani, was a mayor, was elected a mayor in Igbo land. Also in Igbo land, we had Northerners who were representatives in Igbo House of Chiefs. Okay, we can have Northerners and Yorubas contesting election in Igbo land, but we cannot have an Igbo man contesting election in Yoruba land, contesting election in Lagos State. Awolowo now told his people that how will you allow an Igbo man contest election and win in Lagos State? Meanwhile, you had a Yoruba man as a mayor in Port Harcourt. We had Northerners contesting and winning election in Igbo land. So is that not tribalism? Yes, Obafemi Awolowo was the one who introduced tribalism in Nigeria's politics. That is the truth. Now, you mentioned nepotism. You know, most of you go to school without understanding. Most of you go to school, speak English without understanding the meaning of the word what you're saying, okay? Now, nepotism was introduced by the Northerners, the Fulanis. They are the ones that introduced nepotism in Nigeria or Nigerian politics as a result of the threat, as a result of seeing the Igbos as a threat. Because they complained of Igbos occupying the positions in Nigeria. That is what they say. If you make them liberal, before you know it, they become supervisors and all that. That was the genesis. That was where tribal nepotism started in Nigeria. Ahmadu Bello complained of that. Tafawa Balewa and all of them, they said this same thing. So what they now did was, when they had opportunity to hold power, they will now bring their brothers into power. Those their brothers were not competent. They were not qualified. So they had to bring them because of the threat or the fear of the Igbos. Okay, what they call threat of the Igbos. That the Igbos were domineering. Okay, but that was credibility. That was credibility. Whatever I want, and you give it to me, it is not nepotism. Do you understand that? Whatever I am qualified to have, or any position I am occupying as a result of credibility, is not nepotism. Now, the Igbos occupied the civil service. It was credibility. It is not nepotism, because the lady I heard you mentioning nepotism, I don't know if you understood the meaning. Now, the Igbos occupied the civil service. When you talk about the civil service, there is a certain GDP you have to attain in education. That is one. Then after that, you have to write the civil service examination. When you qualify, when you pass their requirement, then you're enrolled into the civil service. And it was only the Igbos that were qualified for this. It was only the Igbos that got this. So they occupied those positions. It wasn't nepotism. Do you understand that? Because you don't favor them because they are your kinsmen or your tribesmen or whatever. They got it because they merited it. Do you understand that? That is it. Now, the third one you mentioned was Lagos as a no man's land. This thing was not said by the Igbos. I've been hearing this for a very long time. Lagos is a no man's land was not said by the Igbos. The Yorubas are fond of accusing the Igbos in everything. They themselves will do something, commit something, they will pin it on the Igbos. We had the 1966 civil war, 1966 coup in Nigeria, which was obviously a Yoruba coup. I've made videos on that. But somehow they managed to pin it on the Igbos. That is what these people does. That statement was made in 1979.
If you haven't learned that, we are giving you strong and solid things that you need to know as you are growing up. Because if you don't know where it started beating you, you may not know where it ends. That's why we take our times to give you this information. Well, let's have a good look at this. You will gain something, 1, 2, 3 things in this particular video you are about to watch. So let's watch.
I want to let you know something. If the Igbos of Igbo State were the ones living here in River State and was demarcated, separated by the government by way of balkanization away from the Southeast, do you know that they would have denied they are not Igbo? Do you also know that if the people of Ebonyi State were the ones living here in River State, do you know that they wouldn't have been calling themselves Igbo? I mean, the Ebonyis. Do you know that the Sokas and the rest of them, if they had separated them the way they did to us here as Ikwere people, I'm an Ikwere man. We are Oba people. We have the Ekmeye, we have Oba Ekmeye, we have Ndoni, Ndoki, Ebema, we have Eche, we have Asa, we have Opobo, and all these Igbo extractions within River State. If you were the one right there in Southeast, some of the extractions in Southeast, if they were the ones here in River State, they would have done exactly the same thing the Kwere man and the Oba man, the Ebeba man is doing today. Because even now, as I speak to you, the case is not different from some of them, especially from the Ohafia areas. There are some Ohafia people who believes that they are more linked to even Akwa Ibom, to even the Ibibios and the Efik. Today, even online, you see some of them come up to say some of those falsehoods because they are not well rooted in history. They are not taught. Nobody to teach them who they are. So it's a big problem in Igbo land. Now, we are about losing many of our extractions in the Igbo if we don't sit up. We are about to lose many of our extractions. You may come up to say, it doesn't concern me, Oga. The reason why it doesn't concern you is because perhaps you don't really see us as your brother. If it does concern you, you will not be saying, leave them now. If they want to go, let them go now. You cannot live alone in Nigeria. You alone cannot survive in Nigeria. So for you to be opening your mouth to say, anybody who wants to leave now, let him leave. Anybody who says it's not Igbo, let's leave them and let's go. Okay, you have no brotherly blood running in your vein. This is why you say this kind of thing. Because if you had the brotherly blood running in your vein, the same brotherly blood that brought me from Bayelsa State to begin to sensitize my people over our Igbo-ness, then you won't be saying what you're saying. Someone whose brother is claiming he's no longer from the same family with him, it will not go well with you. Each time you see the person, you'll be pained. Because at this point now, the person is going about denigrating you, telling everyone that your father is not his father. You will not sit well with such kind of information. It will not go down well with you. And now the funny part of it is that most of us online, we just claim it doesn't concern us. But then, the same you who said it, once somebody opens his mouth to say, we are not Igbo, other man is saying he's not an Igbo man. My man is saying it's not. The moment you see those kind of statements online, now you the first rush to go those places. In fact, you even follow them. You follow those kind of people who say they are not Igbo. You're seeing them physically speaking Igbo. You're seeing their culture that they practice the Igbo culture. You see everything about them. The affinity is so pure. The connection is just too clear between ourselves here, the Queres, our Obas, Ekpeyans, and the rest of them, and the Southeasterners. The connection is too much. It's too glaring for everybody to see. What is my name, Chimedoma? The name is not just the reason for identity. Anybody can decide to answer any name, but when your culture is having resemblance, when your culture and my culture is the same thing, it means that we have great affinity. Your farming method and my own farming method is the same. That means we are brothers, we have connection. When a situation where the way you eat, the way you marry, your tradition, everything about you is almost the same thing as mine, that means you're my brother. That means you're my blood. So there is no way I should be telling my blood to leave them now, leave them now. It means that you're hiding something. It means that you are not saying the truth to yourself. And meaning that you don't know what it takes to be a brother. And this is why most times when people, the Southeasterners, especially in the Southeast, they come to kill our brothers in Southeast, soldiers come kill our brothers and kill thousands of them. It doesn't touch us. We go back to our businesses as though nothing happened. Somebody will come and kill our people. The way we talked about Asari said he came to kill. We go back to our houses as though nothing happened. This is because you don't see the person as your blood. And it is an aberration for you to be thinking that way and be behaving that way as an Igbo man. How can you look at your person, your brother, your relative, your fellow community, a community close to you is under ravage, is being ravaged by another people, they are killing those people, and you just go back to your business as though nothing is happening, as though it doesn't concern you. It means that you don't know what it takes to be blood. So for some of you who open your mouth to say, if Ikwere people, other people, people wants to live and they don't want to be Igbo, let's leave them now. Let them choose wherever they belong. Oh God, you know nothing about yourself. You know nothing about your existence. You even know nothing about where you're going to. So you're just clustered, your reasoning is just about yourself. Your reason is about how you make your money, and let's live our life. After all, Igbo Southeast is prospering. We are doing well, and leave them in spite of all the denial. Are we not moving forward? You don't survive that way, one name. You don't survive that way. They said, Igwe. Once you don't have it, you cannot survive in a system, in a nation like Nigeria. You will cry from now till thy kingdom come, nothing don't happen. All those talks, nothing will happen. It is time for us to unite, and you're saying, leave them. And we, Indigenous Igbos of River State, deemed it fit. We championed it and began to, sensitize our people. Under the umbrella body of the IIC, Indigenous Igbo Congress, and we are championing it, trying to bring these Indigenous Igbos of River State together. And then all you have to say is, if they don't want to be Igbo, let them leave it now. If they don't want to be, let's leave them now. Who is forcing them? Those kind of statements is demoralizing. Of course, you're not forcing me. Did you call me to this movement? You didn't call me. Were you the one that said, come from Bayelsa State where I was and said, let's go on with this movement here in Bayelsa State? You're not the one. I choose to do it for what I have seen and how I feel the next generation is going to look like. What this denial is going to cost my people. This is the reason why I choose to do this. Not because of you. If it were only to be you, self, I would not. Because my people have to identify with their root, their original root, which is the ancestry of the Igbo. Those who come up to say, tell us where Igbo come from. Okay, you tell me where you come from. Because as long as I'm concerned, as long as the history is concerned, all of you have your branches from the great Igbo nation, the ancient Igbo nation. All of us, including those in Benin, in Edo State. Apart from those who came from the Oramio dynasty, who came to invade the land, which is the Yoruba people. The rest people within their doors and all these places, they all have their link to the Igbo nation. Go and study your history. So if you have an Igbo man who is coming up and making this kind of statement, demoralizing statement on those who are putting so much effort to see that the Igbo nation stands and recover back from what the system never wants it to be, then you should re-examine yourself. Re-examine yourself. Ask those kind of people questions. Are you truly an Igbo man? Are you an Igbo man that you're seeing your brother having issues, identity crisis? I say, because he's denying that, because I have made an example here. If an Ebonyi man was in the situation of the Ikwere man or Oma man or Ekpeye man, they would have still denied they are not Igbo. If the Imo State, within Imo State or Abia State, if they were in this situation, they would have still denied they are not Igbo. So now what happens to, why am I saying this? For instance, what happens to Indoke? Indoke in Abia State, some part of Indoke in Abia State is still claiming that they are not Igbo and that they are from Ibjo. People who speak Igbo, practice the Igbo culture, everything about, even if you're not from Igbo, the fact that everything about you has to do with Igbo. You become an Igbo man because of proximity and because of language, because of culture, because of the food you eat, everything. It means that you have been assimilated. You have been deceived by the people who kept you there, who welcomed you and gave you land. So automatically you become an Igbo. But these guys have the audacity to claim they are not Igbo. And they go about to talk about, we are doing IYC, IYC. This is an aberration in Igbo land. And nobody is talking about it. Nobody is saying anything. Everybody, I don't care, I don't care. Everybody is going about his business. When are we going to change from this our individualism? This our individualism, individualistic character. It is a bad character. Bad one. I'm talking to Igbo nation.
Right, viewers, I thank you for making it to this length. I am still Chinedu. Please don't forget to click on the like button to that video. Share this video, let others see it. Like I said earlier, we need to get more raw data. We are looking for data based on those claims that was made in this video. And drop your comment if you have any. Well, till I come your way next time.